Hello, I'm DeFi Sai. I'm here with this week's update on the Avalanche ecosystem and a bit of a look at crypto space as a whole. In this week's video, we're going to be looking at amazing all-time highs for Bitcoin, Avalanche pushing on, a little bit of beef and some arguments on chain about a bit of a struggle with liquidity, and we're also going to look at some new launches and some amazing partnerships, so stay tuned. My name's DeFi Sai. I create content around the Avalanche ecosystem, about meme coins, NFTs, etc. Everything to do with the Avalanche ecosystem. Also look at crypto as a whole. So if you do like this type of content, this is a channel I'm trying to grow. And if you do like any of this type of content, please do hit the like and subscribe button, as then I can keep doing it and keep sharing all this amazing news with you. So on to this week on the Avalanche ecosystem. Let's start by having a look at the market conditions. So Bitcoin had another absolutely amazing week. It opened the week at $80,471. It then closed the week recently at $89,845. It hit an all-time high again of $93,477, which was yet another amazing all-time high. If we go on to the Avalanche prices, Avalanche has also had another good week. Avax opened the week on $31.98. It recently closed the week on $34.74. It did actually hit a high this week of $37.64. So it's super good to see Avax is finally, hopefully, clearing that $30 it really struggled with and now getting ready to push on. It does look like it's ready to push on now, so hopefully we can get pushing on with that. One point to be aware of is that there is a token unlock, which by the time you watch this video, you might well have watched it. It was today, the 18th at 12 p.m. UTC, and it's 1.67 million tokens. Not as big as the previous unlocks has been, so let's see what this does. Now, if it does do anything crazy, I will update you further with another quick video or maybe a quick short just to say what's happened. So if anything changes and you want to know about it, please do click on the channel and have a look. As we look at the market conditions for the meme coins and Avax, you can see from the all the charts on there, it's been a little bit of a mixed bag with Cock, Kimbo, Husky and Kong all leading the way with some big gains and some good improvements. They're all doing well. Now they do look to be a number of the old meme coin rush coins that seem to be leading the way and seem to be coming back up. Now read into that what you will. I don't know if this does mean anything for meme coin rush coming back. Who knows? So hopefully, based on all that, we are looking at another strong week for both Bitcoin, for the altcoins as well. As we say, what usually happens is the liquidity will flow from Bitcoin into all the altcoins, into the smaller caps, such as the memes. Bitcoin dominance, which we've been looking at, as you can see, is still hovering around in that 59 to 61% range. So again, that's something we're going to be keeping an eye on, how that moves in correlation to Bitcoin moving up, and we're going to be watching for any signs of that rotation from Bitcoin into the alts, into the memes, which we do say can signal the start of what's called a full-blown alt season. Now, personally, I don't think that we're going to see the highs in either Bitcoin or Bitcoin dominance until the new year. Obviously, we've still got Trump's inauguration to come in January, so I do think it's going to be Q1 and Q2 next year that we see, but I do think that Bitcoin is really going to take the spotlight for some time longer. Obviously, as we say, nothing we talk on this channel is financial advice, just my personal opinions, but again, Bitcoin could take everything, but as this crypto, who knows? Now, we did just discuss the subject of memes and meme coin rush. Now, this week, there's been a bit of unrest, a bit of chatter building up this week on crypto, Twitter, etc. in a few chats, with people seemingly getting a little bit frustrated with what seems like a lack of action on Avalanche with the pushing of memes, particularly from the Avalanche Foundation. Now, this is being driven by the lack of liquidity on the chain. And like I said, it's particularly aimed at the Avalanche Foundation, who recently, or a good few months ago, launched Meme Coin Rush, which was a name as it was the Avalanche Foundation saying that they support memes. Now, memes are quite slow still at the moment, so this kind of announcement is quite natural because we're seeing huge volumes over on Solana, over on Base, over on Sweet, over on other chains. So it was super interesting over the week to see the tweets that were coming out. Now, I really do like the Forefont Tak account on X, and in particular, they did a detailed thread on Avax meme coins. I'm going to add a link to this in the description, so it's really worth having a look at. Now, it gives a really detailed breakdown, and it does show a lot of key metrics that are really useful to look at for the memes on Avax. Now, as you can see, we've got Cock leading the way on almost all of the metrics, which really is what you would expect, as Cock is the largest meme coin on Avalanche, so you would expect it to be keeping the lead on that. So I will love to keep an eye on these stats. Again, I'll post a link, so have a detailed look through. It's important seeing things like the holder counts increase on these, which is what I'd be looking to see as liquidity comes over from other chains, and that would be a big sign that maybe some of the liquidity, in particular meme liquidity, and new users with a bit more of a speculative outlook are coming to move over to Avax, which would be great to see. Now this does link in nicely to another great post that I saw this week, which was from Frosty Metrics. Now for those who don't know, Frosty Metrics is kind of a one-stop platform for all things Avalanche, any Avalanche data that you want to see, and it's a really cool tool, so it's always good to have a dig around. Again, I'm going to add links to this tweet in the comments so that you can see that and have a look. And what this tweet talks about is how over the last few days there's been a massive increase in the last 7 days of DeFi wallets, or in particular new Avax DeFi wallets. They've been increasing and climbing dramatically. They are currently up 417.5% week on week, and also many of these new wallets, a lot of them are coming from LFJ, with that being the biggest DEX on Avalanche. So historically, LFJ, formerly known as Trader Joe, is the introduction application. It's where a lot of the new users come into the Avalanche ecosystem. Now, one important point to note is this is not all DEXs are linked through to Frosty Metrics. So a lot of the newer DEXs, so for example ones like Apex, etc., aren't actually linking through. So there is going to be more users to this. So I know from speaking to guys at Apex, I reached out to them this week that they're hoping to be added to Frosty Metrics soon, which will be good to see. So I did want to speak to them just to get a bit of on the ground action to see if this is really spread out over the ecosystem and the new users. So I spoke to them, and what they were saying that they are seeing an increase in new wallets. So these new users are flowing down to the new DEX, particularly like Apex and Bellum, which is interesting because these are the ones that really facilitate the launching of new tokens. And as I said, yes, they are seeing an uptick in new wallets. So again, this is people coming over to DeFi on Avalanche, which we love to see. They're also seeing a lot of direct ramping onto Avax via credit card, which is good. So it's people buying Avax directly, and also usage of the social login feature of the third web. Now, as I said, this is all great to see, and it means that we're hopefully starting to see these new decks and these new users, the more speculative users, so the ones that are into memes, things like that, starting to join the chain. This might well be the start of the great rotation. It could even be more conservative users of Avax, so maybe just holders of Avax that are now looking into memes and DeFi as an option. And this links into my earlier post about the frustration of people that are wanting more talk, more action, a lot more coming from the foundation, which would then bring in more users and more liquidity to the chain, which is super good to see because then wallets are increasing. So more talk on the meme side of things. So based on a lot of these stats, like I said, it does seem like that things are happening. Now, I get this frustration of people. I know why people are upset. It's very hard when you've got bags that you've been holding and you're looking at seeing people on other chains, in other coins, in your Pepes and your Doges, etc., doing super well. But for me, we're super early in the space, but also particularly in this cycle. We are still early in the cycle. So it does seem like capital should start to rotate. Now, I did hear some time ago that meme coin rush was going to be coming back, but with improvements and with changes. I did hear this, but it was a while ago. Now, I haven't heard anything since, so honestly, I don't know what's going on. If anybody's got any hints and tips, please do let me know in the comments. And it does make sense for me personally that if it's going to come back, it comes back after Avalanche 9000 and after the ACP 77 upgrade. When what's going to happen there is it's going to be both easier to launch your own layer 1, it's going to be cheaper to launch your own layer 1, but possibly what I think is more important for memes, etc., and new users coming to the chain is that gas fees are going to be much cheaper. Now, as Avax is already super cheap, super fast to use, if you combine these two together, so the speed of the network and the low cost of it, that's a great incentive for people buying and trading memes, especially if we see something that we saw last week, which is outages across Solana. For me personally, I find Solana quite expensive to use, I find it very slow to use, and again, they did have big outages last week. So that meant the network was totally down, so people couldn't trade the memes. If they were locked in a trade, they were stuck, they couldn't be doing anything. So could it well be that Avalanche have built all this amazing tech and they're simply waiting for the right time to get this out there, to blow this up? For me, that would make sense. This could well be, Could it be what starts something I talk about a lot? I've said it in this video and I'm going to be saying it again, something that starts the great rotation to the red chain. So super fast tech, super cheap to use, and lots of great memes. So let's bring this on. I find this a very interesting topic and I know there's been a lot of chatter on it. So if anybody does want to connect, jump on X, follow me at DeFi_Sci. You can also drop any thoughts that you've got in the comments below, because I'd love to hear what people think, as it is very important for us all. And it does feel like this is something that is super key to the success of Avalanche. They're getting that liquidity over, as well as all the blue chip announcements. So yeah, like I said, I would really love to hear what people think. So please do drop any comments down below. Now, talking of launching tokens and also the Apex DEX in particular, there was a bit of a launch that caught my eye this week. It was a bit of a fast launch that was dropped on Apex on UK time. It was very early as Sunday morning, so for a lot of you it would have been Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, under a new token called Nati. It was launched on Apex under their burst section. Now, the burst facility on Apex, which is something that's spoken about before, so it's in a previous video, and I'm going to link to that up to the top and in the comments down below. So if you want to watch that to understand what burst is, it's a good insight into that. Essentially, burst is where tokens are launched on a bonding curve, so they rise up on that. There's a few different settings you can do, and when they hit the top of that bonding curve, the liquidity is then added to various larger, more prominent dexes where it's going to get more eyes on it. So you can choose to add it onto LFJ, Pangolin and Pharaoh, as well as keeping the liquidity on Apex itself. Now, this has been running for a few weeks now, but what was particularly special about Nati was how fast it bonded. It was a super fast bond, and I know that it absolutely smashed the fastest burst time record that they had on site. I was on trying to get into it, and it literally burst and bonded within seconds, which is super great to see. Now, for me personally, this is a bit of a narrative that's playing out across. The token's called Nati. I've spoken before about another token called Booty, and I've also spoken about Juicy, which is in effect the native token for a platform that's like an OnlyFans that you can use crypto on. So the theme is, and One Third Nerd is the guy that founded Booty, talks about this a lot. He kind of brings it across by saying that what they're looking to do is make Avax sexy again, which I think is very good. It doesn't necessarily have to be sexy in the sexy manner, just bringing eyes, interest and liquidity onto the chain, which is a good thing. So this little ecosystem of token that's growing, I think is a really good idea. It's something fun, it's something unusual, it's something that people can get eyes on. It's a unique take, and it can bring eyes and liquidity to the chain, which is always a good thing. So well done to Apex, well done to Nati. Jump on, have a look at that. It's had a bit of a dip, so again, not financial advice, but if you want to get into a token like that, they're all doing relatively low at the moment, so are good to get in. Staying with the DEX I've spoken about, Apex, they've also recently announced an amazing new partnership with an organisation called Eclipse Gaming. Now, this was summarised in a great thread by a guy called Techie Boy, which yet again, I will pop the links down to the tweet in the description. It's really worth having a look through to find out more about this. So who are Eclipse? Now, Eclipse are an innovative gaming layer one. They've got an exclusive tooling suite, and what they do is they kind of like to bridge the gap between Web 2 and Web 3 gaming. So it's an area, especially on Avax, that is a massive area now for expansion with off the grid, etc., and an area that Avax are focused on. What is Apex? Apex is a DEX on Avalanche, but it's relatively new, and what makes them unique is they've got a number of different things. Now, I've spoken earlier about in this video about Burst and how it allows anyone to launch a token, and it's easy, it's simple to do, it's going to do well for that. Now, their tokens also use a new standard, which is called the ERC 3114 standard. It's a new token standard which has a ton more utility than a lot of your standard tokens which are launched under the ERC 20 token standard. I'm not going to go into too much detail now, but one of the great things for me, it's got additional utilities like, instead of having to use a DEX, you can send Avax direct to the token's contract address, and in your wallet, you will receive the token in return. So even though Apex is a DEX, they actually cut out the need for a DEX. It's also got a host of liquidity providing and single-sided staking options on there, so you can also earn a mix of tokens. You can either token your stake, but also Apex, which is their native token to the Apex DEX, which with the plans they've got going forward should do very well. Now, what they also do is they've got really enhanced interoperability between chains. They also have a really increased accessibility, which broadens the reach of the DeFi and what transactions can be done with DeFi. So that's a bit of an overview, but all of that taken into consideration means that Apex is transformed the peer-to-peer trading of meme and vanity tokens. This is pretty much game changing once you get to know the tech. It's still been quite quiet, but I think it's going to go massive very soon. This is good because what this ensures is super easy trading. You can exchange tokens pretty effortlessly. It also, as it's eliminating a lot of them steps there and the need for a DEX, and they've also improved the security through a number of measures that they've done. So if you add in the improved security, the faster transactions, the steps being taken out, all of these functions are perfectly suited to the requirements of an online game, which is very exciting. Now, they have said, and what it's going to do is really transform the DeFi experience when it's used as part of a game. And what that means is any in-game transactions are going to be super fast and they're going to be super secure. It also has a hell of a lot more possibilities of integration going forward. There's a whole host of options they can bring in, which is really amazing. So I'm personally excited to see how this develops in this sector, which is a sector that's been focused on by Avalanche. I'm also excited to see what the future announcements are that come from both Apex and also Eclipse, and how they link this to get, yet again, more real world applications and new users to Avalanche, which I've spoken about before, which is amazing to see. So, on to Avalanche partnerships themselves. It's pretty standard now this week, as this week, that it seems to be the norm, that there's a constant stream of amazing announcements coming out from Avalanche, from the foundation, of new partnerships for Avalanche. So what we'll do is we're going to have a very quick rundown of those. I'm conscious I do tend to go on a bit and the videos get long, but let's have a look at those. The first one, and the big name that springs to mind, is BlackRock. Now, if you're into crypto, if you're into investment, BlackRock is a name that pretty much we all know. BlackRock are the world's largest asset manager, and it's just started to tokenize a lot. What it's recently done is tokenized its USD Institutional Digital Liquidity Fund. That's what's known as BUIDL, I think you'll say, BUIDL, so I don't know, we'll call it BUIDL. And it's brought that to the Avalanche Blockchain, which is super exciting to see. This makes it the largest tokenized treasury fund globally. You can tell why that's important, but in a bit more detail, why does that matter? Firstly, what's good to do is just have a very quick look at what is BUIDL. What could do with looking at is how you actually say it, but anyway, we'll call it BUIDL. So BUIDL is a 500 million plus fund that's now available as digital tokens. Each share of the fund is represented by one BUIDL token. So these tokens are all backed by cash, US Treasury bills, and repurchase agreements. So what that does is that ensures stability and reliability for the investors that are using this product. So why is that important? Now, BUIDL pays daily dividends. It pays them directly to investors, straight into the investors' wallets, and investors can then use the funds. What would not happen with them is they might just sit idle, doing nothing, but they're getting funds like stable coins. They can use them, and as we know, we're on to DeFi, to get a return on them, which is super important, because it's not just BlackRock that are doing this. There's other big players like JP Morgan, Citi, and many more that are starting to use Avalanche for their tokenization. Now, this is interesting because, like I said before, and I will keep saying it, it signals a shift in how traditional finance is viewing blockchain. They were very shunning it, they didn't want to know, but once again, it's more large blue chip financial institutions that are both choosing blockchain, and they're also choosing Avalanche as the chain they use as they move towards tokenization. And again, I cannot share enough for me how this type of onboarding, this type of real world application, and this type of bringing new users onto Avalanche and blockchain technology as a whole, it is what the future means. It's how it brings the future closer. It's how it brings a tokenized future closer to all of us. And yet again, Avalanche is positioning itself super well to be the chain of choice, to be the chain that these blue chip organizations are using. Other partnerships that were announced this week, there was quite a few announced, so again, I am just going to quick run through. One that was formally announced this week was something that I did speak about. I think I brought it was in one of my previous videos, which is one of the updates from the Avalanche Summit. So just to keep everyone updated, Miwe have their partnerships formally been announced. So again, like I said, I did speak about this, so I'll put the link through for this one. But Miwe is building its own custom layer 1 on Avalanche, which is great to see. What is Miwe? Miwe is the world's largest decentralized social network, and it's launching its own layer 1. Now, what they're going to use that for is to bring the benefits of decentralization directly to its users. And it's got around 20 million users and 700,000 interest-based groups, which is an amazing numbers. Another partnership announced this week was Watford Football Club. Now, Watford Football Club is a famous football or soccer to US watchers team in England's Championship leagues, which is the second level, so it's a decent level, and it's formerly owned by Elton John, the Rocket Man himself. Not anymore. So now they have made a partnership with Republic, which is partnered with the Avalanche Blockchain. What they're doing with this is they're going to sell digital equity. So this is giving fans the chance to own a piece of the club. The TLDR of this is that fans will now be able to buy shares in Watford Football Club. That was traditionally quite a hard and difficult thing to do, whereas now these shares are going to be represented by tokens, which makes it much easier to do. By tokenizing these shares on the Avalanche blockchain, it really helps fans. It helps fans because the process becomes much faster, the process becomes much more safer, and the process becomes much more transparent. So fans can basically log on, get instant ownership of their shares instead of having to wait. They're avoiding any middlemen, they're saving time, and they are saving money. It also allows them to participate in a global marketplace for sports investment. So there's a lot more going to be going on to this than what meets the eye. The club is also planning to use the sale of these shares to raise funds for the club through the sale of shares that they can then invest in infrastructure with, buy players, so fans can have a direct impact on the club. So yet again, it's another sector, this time sports, that's moving to blockchain and Avalanche Tech in particular. So yet again, another example of the famous real world adoption that we all love to see. Next up in partnership is the Liberia and Fundbridge Capital, who are teaming up with Wellington Management. What does this one mean? Liberia and Fundbridge Capital are teaming up and working with Wellington Management. What they're offering with this product is they're going to launch the Delta Ultra Short Treasury on-chain fund, which is launched on the Avalanche blockchain. Sounds like a lot of words, so what actually is this fund? In short, this fund lets investors buy US treasuries, so safe, short-term government investments. Again, all these TradFi type things have been tokenized as digital tokens which are on blockchain. So through using blockchain, people that are buying these are going to get all the usual benefits we expect. So it's going to make investing in US treasuries much faster, cheaper, and more transparent in something that was traditionally quite a laborious process. Everything also is auditable. It's all recorded securely on the blockchain. So overall, what this means is it's going to be a faster and a much more efficient way to access government-backed investments, which is absolutely amazing yet again. So going forward, again, this represents a big shift, again, from TradFi establishments who were traditionally quite resistant to blockchain and Web3 tech. And what they're doing is they're bringing this tokenization on, which again, I'm going to say it again, is all part of bringing on the great rotation to the red chain. So yeah, that's this week's updates. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this roundup. We've gone through quite quickly this week on this. So I know there's a lot to go through, so yeah, thanks for watching till the end. And again, if you do like this type of content, please do like and subscribe, because it will keep you updated. For me personally this week, working in the Avalanche blockchain, I do design a lot of merch. I work for NFTs as their resident artist / featured brand. I've got merch launches for Red Pepe and for Square Cat. So I'm going to be sharing some much more details of them, doing some deep dives into the merch. I do like to talk about the merch that I design and how it impacts the Avalanche blockchain, doing a deep dive into them, talking about the inspiration, talking about the design process behind there. And yeah, I'll be keeping all that content coming up to date. So yeah, like I said, please do like and subscribe. That's the end of this week's video. Peace out and good vibes.